Welcome to the third episode of AREB Bites, a video series that will document the milestones and highlights of AREB, an acronym that stands for the Arabic Roots of European Biology, a 3-year research project funded by the European Union within the framework of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. My name is Tommaso Alpina. I'm a historian of philosophy and science in the Islamic world and the principal investigator of this research project. In the previous episode, we saw that zoology occupies a special place within Avicenna's philosophical and scientific project. It hosts a new model for biological investigation centered on the study of the organic body, which combines philosophy, natural philosophy, medicine, and even theology. Though crucial to create the sufficient uniformity between philosophy and medicine, this combination is not easy to accomplish because of the different and even conflicting stances of philosophers and physicians about the body. Therefore, in zoology, Avicenna puts in place a two-move strategy to accomplish this reconciliation between medicine and philosophy and create the sufficient uniformity which makes the transition from one to the other smoother. Today we look at this first move, that is solving crucial disagreements between philosophers and physicians, which involves a squealing pig, the branches of a tree, and the passion for gambling. Let's start with Galen, Avicenna's medical authority. Following what we read in his anatomical procedures, as well as in other works of his, while vivisecting a pig, Galen accidentally cut the recurrent nerves of the larynx. While keeping moving and struggling, the pig immediately stopped squealing. This unforeseen fact prompted Galen to investigate not only the nerves of the larynx, but more generally the anatomy of all nerves and how they branch off the brain to the spinal cord and from there to the rest of the body. This fact, the discovery of the nervous system, which in this form was unknown to his predecessors, brought Galen to challenge Aristotle's cardiocentrism, an anatomical model which granted primacy to the heart over all the other bodily organs. Galen was not the first one to challenge Aristotle's cardiocentrism. Building on Plato's Timaeus, in particular his tripartition of the soul and its bodily location, Galen upheld an anatomical model where there was no primary organ, but actually 3 chief organs, the heart, the brain, and the liver, all on equal footing with different specific functions. One might wonder why Avicenna should tackle this issue. What's so important in the disagreement between philosophers and physicians on these 2 anatomical models? Well, choosing one of these 2 models is not a side issue, especially while investigating the organic body. Rather, it bears upon how to understand a more fundamental topic, namely the animation of the body and consequently the nature of the soul, which is its principle of animation. Aristotle and his followers believe that the soul is one. Therefore, to avoid any partition and preserve its unity, it should attach to the body through one single organ, namely the heart, through which it animates the rest of the body. Galen was not interested in this topic. The nature of the soul, whether it corrupts with the corruption of the body or survives its death, was an elusive issue with which doctors shouldn't be bothered because they cannot reach any conclusion, certain conclusion about it. Rather, they should focus on powers. Because by looking at the functions a certain body part or organ performs or doesn't perform, they can detect the body seat of a specific set of capacities and then act on it to preserve or restore its healthy state and therefore its capacity for performing its specific function. Doctors should focus on powers and their functions regardless of whether they derive from a higher principle, such as the soul, or not. In this model, for example, the power of locomotion and perception is located in the brain. The heart has nothing to do with it. In his Book of the Soul, the Kitab al-Nafs, devoted to philosophical psychology, Avicenna demonstrates that the soul is one. Therefore, to avoid any partition, it needs a primary attachment to the body through a single organ. Therefore, Avicenna would incline towards Aristotle's cardiocentrism. However, he cannot solve the tension between philosophers and physicians on this issue by merely favoring Aristotle over Galen. This would amount to a form of partisan spirit or blind adherence, tahassub, which is in contrast with the validation following rational scrutiny, tahsil, which Avicenna considered the best philosophical practice. Not only that, disproving Galen's argument is not easy. Galen's anatomical procedures increased medical knowledge far beyond Aristotle. The discovery of the nervous system is a clear example of that. Moreover, Galen was a fine logician, the author of a now lost book on demonstration. He, besides direct observation, advocates a tight logical method for medicine, which is capable of vying with the philosophers. Galen grounds his claim that the brain, the heart and the liver are all on an equal footing, among other things, on the fact that they are the physical origin, the source, of three different systems of channels and blood vessels, which connect body parts and organs, namely nerves, arteries and veins. This fact will help him also to show that all these three organs play an equally crucial role in the body of animals. Moreover, from this fact, Galen also infers that the brain, the heart and the liver are principles for different specific sets of powers, which from their principal or primary seat reach other body parts to perform specific functions. For example, the power of perception is located in the brain, but through the optic nerve it reaches the eye and then performs vision. In his Book of Animals, Avicenna intends to refute Galen's tripartite anatomical model precisely by directing his criticism towards the arguments he uses to demonstrate from which organs these channels or blood vessels originate. One of Galen's famous arguments to support his claim is the one based on the correlation between thickness and physical origin or source. In his The Doctrines of Hippocrates and Plato, De Placitis Hippocratis et Platonis, Galen writes that something is thicker by its principle, while it changes its physical constitution and becomes thinner when it moves away from it, like the branches of a tree, which are thicker by the trunk, which is their origin, their source. After presenting this argument, as well as other arguments Galen uses to support his claim, Avicenna writes in his Book of Animals that although Galen would bet money on them, all his arguments are dialectical, jadali, not necessary, and therefore disprovable. For instance, there are many counterexamples to the argument based on the analogy with the branches of the tree. Furthermore, Avicenna even goes so far as to argue that there are no conclusive arguments to demonstrate the physical origin, the source of blood vessels and nerves. Blood vessels, nerves connect simultaneously two body parts or two organs. Therefore, it is difficult to establish from which organ they originate and at which organ they arrive. According to Avicenna, the only thing that cannot be disputed is the primacy of the heart over all the other organs. On this conclusion, he believes, philosophers and physicians should agree. If we consider what is at stake here, we immediately understand the reason behind this. Following Aristotle, Avicenna believes that the soul is one. He even demonstrates it in his Book of the Soul. Therefore, it needs one single primary attachment to the body in order to avoid its partition. Following again Aristotle, he identifies this primary attachment in the heart, or better, in the cardiac pneuma or spirit, ruh, the vaporous body which in the medical tradition was considered the vehicle of soul powers. What's new compared to Aristotle is the contribution of anatomy to this conclusion. If anatomical procedures are well conducted, namely guided by true correct principles, they end up confirming philosophers' conclusions. And this is precisely the case. Even the observation, the well-conducted observation of the formation of the embryo will show that the heart is the first organ to be generated, and that only after it and through the generative power in it, all the other organs are generated. By well-conducted observation, Avicenna means something of a higher scientific value than an episodic quick look. He calls this well-conducted observation tajriba, often translated in English as regulated experience, a middle path between demonstration and induction. According to Avicenna, tajriba produces valid knowledge under certain stipulated conditions on the basis of an observed regularity which cannot be ascribed to a mere chance. As usual, I leave you with a final question. Can a man be born out of clay? Tune in to discover the connection between species preservation and recurring floods in the next episode.